Please order. Close to 1 o'clock. So is there any agenda additions or approvals? Anything?
No, we are not there.
Nothing from you, Craig? Okay. Can I get an approval? Okay. Mr. McKay? Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. So we'll do quick introductions. We'll start with Marlene there.
Marlene Hanson, executive
Ernie Gender, good afternoon.
assistant. Paul McCabe.
Dave Grover.
Justin Stevens.
Les Stillwork. James Nyberg, Chair MPC.
Craig Teal, Director of Parkland Community Planning Services.
Andrew Burchick, Director of Municipal Services.
Michelle Huber, Legislative Assistant.
Jacinta Donovan, Director of Planning Services.
Rich.
Trevor Smith. Wade Smith. Gordon Smith.
Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
Thank you, everybody. Welcome. Does anybody have a problem with us going to development permit 6.1? Taking it there? I see nothing as any opposed, so we will go to 6.1 if administration is cool with that. Okay. Get these guys back in the field. Go ahead. Page 10 of the package, and Rich, you got it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant is proposing to place a 1980 model mobile home and a detached garage on Lot 2, Block 1, Plan 0426881. A manufactured home is listed as a discretionary use in this county residence agricultural land use district. Section 67.1 of the bylaw stipulates a development permit application for a manufactured home older than 10 years must include pictures of the exterior of the home. Photos of the existing home are also attached for reference. The applicant has advised that once the mobile is placed in its location, then it will have new siding and a new porch added to it to improve the appearance of the structure. There is currently a small shed and a greenhouse on the property. Utilities will be provided by an on-site well and an on-site holding tank. There's currently an approach on the site and a road address has previously been assigned to the parcel. And there's some photos attached there as well. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay. What's your flavor, gentlemen?
Like to move this forward?
Please, as recommendations.
Are there any questions, concerns that anybody has? Go ahead, Mr. Grover.
Is Gordy gonna, side himself or is he gonna?
I think he's got some young grand kids there that are pretty handy. Okay. No questions, concerns? Seeing that, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Pretty straightforward, guys. But thanks for coming in. You can stay the rest of the meeting. We're good to go. Enjoy it with us. Yeah, absolutely. Go to work. Thanks, bro. You bet.
Yeah, see you later.
9.1,
5.1,
7.1, sorry.
7.1, and
No, actually 7.2.
7.2.
Yes.
All right, we'll get you, yeah. So again, for the individual that's here, we will move to 7.2 for subdivision file, page 67 of your pack.
Municipal Planning Commission. Development Officers Report, Development Permit.
Is that
I managed to hit a narration button somehow.
okay? Right on. That's here. I thought God was speaking to me again.
Me talking to
No. All right. Okay. Nothing but fun here. So everybody's in okay with going to 7.1 in the subdivision file? Who's taking this one?
I will, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
7.2.
7.2. There we go. Yeah. Page 67 of your package.
And I do have one additional condition that I'll be adding further.
Okay.
Towards the end of the presentation. So the applicant is here with us, Riley Hill, and he may or may not wish to speak, Mr. Chairman. The application is to subdivide an existing 9-acre parcel on Range Road 19-1, that's just north of the town of Stettler, into a 5-acre parcel for the north around the existing dwelling. Thanks very much if you bring that up. and creating a 4-acre bare parcel around a dugout to the south. So that is the new parcel being created is a purple outlined, but by default, we're also creating another 5-acre parcel out of the balance around the existing house. The key issues for this application involve a new access point for the new parcel to the south. There would be space to provide one before running into the drainage course that feeds over from the west side into the dugout. A limited area there that would require some brushing and dodging a telephone pole, but it seems possible to do so. Related to the access issues, operations has flagged the need to look at site visibility for definitely the new access point once it's identified. And approach application would be required for the existing access. There seems to be a need for some brushing, mostly to the north, to do with some vegetation that's grown in that particular area. These particular parcels are along one of the water lines maintained by the county, so they have access to that service, but they still have to maintain their own individual wastewater services. In terms of the existing dwelling, there is a open discharge in the very upper northeast corner that does not meet the sewage, any of the private sewage code of practice, I believe, in terms of the setback distances from the dwelling or from the house. So that has been flagged as one of the issues to follow up in the condition. In terms of the parcel sizes, they do meet the land use bylaw requirement. We're outside the area of the municipal development plan. The dugout that is in the proposed parcel in the south portion is a little too close to the center line of the road. We're not sure when it was done, but there is a condition that also speaks to filling in part of that, or basically pulling the west edge in from the road. So we achieve the 38-meter setback from the center line of the road allowance. And we also are looking for road widening along this 9-acre block that wasn't taken at the time that the parcel was created initially from the quarter section. So that kind of runs through all the big issues that the conditions are trying to deal with. In terms of the rural development fund, since the parcel being created is less than 5 acres, it isn't subject to it, and the balance is also 5 acres, not subject to it. So there is no other rural contribution, or rural development fund contribution. The reserves is a little bit of a different scenario here, since this is no longer a first parcel out, it is coming back and being subdivided. We do have to address the issue of municipal reserves, and 10% of the 9-acre parcel is what the county's MPP does allow to be taken. We don't have any interest in a public park space or anything in this area, so the practice is to take that as a cash value. And so it's based on $1,250 per acre. And when you factor that at 0.91, that works out to just a little over $1,100 or $26 or so as a cash contribution. The final dollars figure will be recalculated once this is prepared as a plan when it comes to the endorsement process. So that is the other key issue. So speaking to the conditions, and I'll try to identify also the additional one, Mr. Chair. Going again through some of those same issues. Municipal reserve dedication of a cash in lieu is condition number 3. I'm not sure if you can catch up on page 71 of the agenda package there, Andrew. So that speaks to the reserve dedication component. Number 4 is the standard for addressing. Number 5 is the requirement to construct a new approach for the proposed parcel. So the application for installation of an approach will be attached. You can scroll on to the next page, please. Number 6 deals with the dedication of the road widening across the parcel frontage on the east side of Range Road 19-1. Number 7 deals with the dugout, trying to relocate, reconfigure, refill. There's a number of ways of dealing with that, so long as the water's edge is at least the 38 meters in from the center line of Range Road 19-1. And number 8 deals with having the need to transition from the open discharge to an alternative private disposal system that meets the Alberta Private Sewage System standard of practice. So in this particular case, that may include a in-ground field if the conditions are suitable, or maybe a holding tank that then has to be hauled out to either Red Willow or another receiving lagoon. The condition I would like to ask the committee to add, Mr. Chairman, deals with the brushing, which we inadvertently left out of our report when we were preparing it, and I will read that off since I don't have it otherwise to present it. It would be added as condition number 9. Once an approach location for the new parcel has been selected by the applicant and approved by the county, the applicant shall contact the county operations department to arrange for the clearing of trees and grubbing of underbrush and stumps within the east side of Range Road 19-1 to achieve 150 meter sight distances in each direction from the center line of the existing access and the center line of the new access, where the approach for each access crosses the property line into the respective parcels. So in simpler terms, what that means is we got two driveways to deal with. One, we don't know where it is. When we go to the point where a driver's eyes would be where the driveway crosses the property line, you have to be able to look to the north or south along this road and be able to see clearly for 150 meters for any oncoming vehicles. It doesn't require the applicant to physically do the brushing. Contact the county staff and make arrangements, and physically the brushing is done by the county staff. That's mostly for the benefit of the applicant, Mr. Chair, since he's hearing this condition for the first time as well. And with that, I'd be happy to.
And no cost to the applicant on the brushing.
I do believe so, yes.
Mr. Hill, do you have any questions or concerns about this? Is there something that you need clarification on?
Just the existing sewage discharge.
Okay,
I'm just wondering if the existing tank would be big enough for a holding tank.
that I can't determine. I don't know. That would be something that would be something you would have to have an expert to make that decision. We're not that smart here.
I will add a little bit to that, Mr. Chairman, if I can. Certainly, in fulfilling that condition, you do need to get a plumbing permit from a safety codes officer, and the expectation is that once it's approved, that comes back to us before we endorse the application to see that that condition has been followed up. So that'll be the best source for the applicant to find out what are the choices on the size of tank. I'm gonna go on, actually not knowing how big the tank it is. It could be fairly large and sizable, but that may be a worthwhile conversation. Otherwise, you're just hauling it out more frequently.
There you go. Okay,
Thank you.
okay. Jacinta, go ahead.
I just had one question for clarification for Craig. So this second parcel, would that not be the only parcel that would be subject to the MR in cash and lieu, like the 4 acres?
Mr. Chairman, it is not. It is the entire 9-acre parcel that is subject to the MR calculation.
Because it's the one that is doing,
It is the parcel that is subject to the subdivision and is no longer protected as being the first parcel out.
there we go. Okay, any questions, concerns, Mr. Gender?
On point number, it's about the dugout. Point number 7. It's going to be very difficult. I'm not really sure what the edge of the dugout is compared to the center of the road, compared to the 38.1 meters.
I think it would be very close. It is pretty close to the road as it is.
Mr. Chairman, we could just maybe jump to that photo. We could take a guess. That is a blown up one that we got to work with. So when we look at the center line, the issue of the road widening won't come into play. It's basically the center line of the existing 20-meter wide right of way. So that accounts for our first 10 meters of the 38 that we're looking for. So from the east side, basically where you see the purple line and the orange line competing, we'll be looking for an additional 28 meters of space. My estimate, just scaling off the drawing earlier, was it's probably shy by about 7 to 8 meters. So that's how much of the dugout would have to be kind of reconfigured, pulled to the east, depending on how you want to look at it.
So is that as simple as, I mean, there won't be any environmental cost on this. It'll be basically when he digs his basement, he puts the dirt there kind of thing. Okay,
Yeah, even the shrubs clearing, moving the dirt, the front of
Yeah.
the dugout back of it.
yeah, whatever, however you
There's
can,
a big bank along the west side of it.
yeah, so. It's just that the edge of that, so and I'm guessing this is the east side of this, the dugout just needs to be pushed back.
The west side of there, Mr. Chairman, and just for clarity, it's about the water. It's not about the vegetation or the landform in between the dugout and the road. It's about the safety for a driver if they were to leave the road and end up in a water body.
Okay, that's clear for you? Okay. Not a big deal. Go ahead, Mr. Gender.
It's going to be a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. Like there's nothing really simple about just filling in a dugout, because when you start filling it in from one end, it's just going to keep on sloughing in. It's because you've got so much mud on the bottom of it. It's just like a pail of grease. You're going to have a very difficult time reconfiguring that. I'm just gonna want to know if the dollar is justified, doesn't necessarily have to be done.
Okay, I guess that is a determination of, and we've been told that it is a safety issue for us and it's part of our policy, so I'm not prepared to go outside that. That's one person's opinion of making it move over, and I'm wondering if this is, I mean, without knowing the total, he may not even have to move it if we go to actual drawings and actual measurements, it might be conforming. We just don't know that yet. So then at that point, that would be a determination for Mr. Hill to make and figure out which is the best option to do. I've got Mr. Jeff Stevens and then Mr.
Just looking at another picture further down, looks like when they dug this dugout, all the material was thrown on that west side. So if the concern is vehicles leaving the road and getting in a dugout, they have to clear a mound of dirt. I'm not sure if I'm concerned in the slightest about that, just given the way that it was dug. You'd have to clear the road, go through the ditch over 20
I'm
foot.
gonna let Craig just comment on that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's an accurate depiction of what's happening on the ground if you were a vehicle approaching from the south. If you're a vehicle approaching from the north, that berm does not go all the way up to close off the entire west side. So kind of from the northwest corner, almost with the alignment of the dugout towards the Range Road 19-1. If you were southbound, that'd be the vehicle at risk. Council, if MPC is interested in alternatives, it may be possible to just extend that berm to close off. And that may be an alternative condition that addresses the safety concern.
Okay, so can we, if I can, Mr. Stolberg, can we look at that condition to be changed to dugout on the proposed part must be reconfigured or relocated or burned so that the west edge of the dugout meets the county's required safety setback without the 3.8 meters? Would that suffice to make that work?
38 meters.
Yeah.
Not 328 also.
Yeah, 28 within property lines. Mr. Strobler, I'll go to you and then we'll have this discussion.
A couple things, I guess if you burned the entire west side, it wouldn't let the water in because that's where the drainage is. But my question to administration is, would the way the AT would install a guardrail along a slough adjacent to a road or a creek or something where they put a industry standard guardrails on the west side, would that suffice for enough protection for a vehicle leaving the road?
Certainly, if it's
Industry standard one?
the role of the guard is to prevent from leaving the road, you have to extend it further down. I'm not sure I can speak to cost and what it would be like to do that sort of item.
Give you some options, anyway.
If I can speak to the issue of the drainage, certainly a berm can go over a culvert to maintain the drainage route into the dugout still.
Down south, it'd be down in your area, less it'd be going down to, the county had reconstructed some road, and they went around some windy roads, and they had put up actually a pipe rail fence in there. So even something like that, that would kind of assist so that they don't, or a guardrail, that sort of thing, by all means.
Mr. Stevens?
I'm in favor of the berm as an alternative. I don't like the idea of adding guardrails if we can avoid it, just from a long-term maintenance, snow clearing. I think it will create public. If we give them the option of the berm, that's pretty economical to do. I'm not in favor of going with the guardrail.
Okay, so I think I have consensus on this from the board that there needs to be something done to this. So, but what we need to do is, for Mr. Hill's benefit, is to come up with a condition that he can understand and that administration can accept. So That being said, the dugout, condition 7, the dugout on the proposed parcel must be reconfigured or relocated so that the west edge of the dugout meets the county's required 3.8 meter setback requirement from the center line of 19-1, or a berm built to the county's satisfaction to create a safety buffer. Is that sound kosher?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask, I think the general, the building, bad name for speaking, the building blocks are there. If you're prepared to give staff a little bit of latitude in the actual precise wording, I think that's something that we can.
Okay. And Mr. Hill, does that, I mean, I think Mr. Gender makes a very valid point that it might become, and I think he's looking out for your best cost interest to see which one would, and I hope you understand that our thought on this is the safety issue for the motoring traffic, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so if you're cool with that and that makes sense to you, then we'll go ahead if that's all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I need is a motion with the amended 7, so it gives them the option.
7 as well as the verbal 9.
And the verbal 9, yes. Can I get a motion from someone?
Great one.
I'll already cover, Mr. Chairman, the verbal 9. So,
Okay,
Yeah, I'll give you the motion to approve with staff recommendations with the amendment to 7 and the verbal addition of 0.9, 2 conditions.
everybody on the board is clear, Mr. Gender?
So he will present a solution or bring it forth to us.
Not to us, it'll come to administration, county administration, public works can handle that, I'll figure that out. He won't have to come see us again. Okay, unless he wants to. Is administration clear? We're good? Okay, I see noddings of heads, so then I will, and no ask your questions. I'll call the question, all those in favor, and that is carried. Okay. Not as clear cut as the first one, but we got her done.
No, it's the weird part, so.
There you go. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate it. Okay, now we will go back to the development officer's report. Start again, and we have nobody online, right, Andrew?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have the list of activities that we've been engaged in the last few weeks. We had our permits from 2022, where we're at 90, and in 2021, we had 112 permits at this time. Subdivisions, we are at 12 for 2022. In 2021, we had processed 20 applications. We've authorized the crossing of ER to align with the docking and mooring applications for 45 applicants. August the 10th, Rich, myself, and Robin, and we met with representatives from Alberta Environment Parks, and we did a walking tour through the provincial right-of-way and our environmental reserve at the lake subdivision. So Alberta Environment went well. Yeah.
Was there any issues, concerns that were immediately addressed, or how did that?
Alberta Environment Parks is going to be following up with some of the reserves that were stored on the provincial right-of-way, and we have some work to do as well. We need to go back because there's some items that are left abandoned on some of those provincial right-of-ways, so they want to have them tagged and reach out to the communities to see if anyone is aware of whom those items belong to.
Did you take the association with you? Was there a representative from the?
No, we did not.
So I think going forward, that might be a reach out to them to ask the community association if they'd be interested to send a representative along. And I think we should work towards that being a little bit more of a partnership issue, just to stop some of the rumor mill to go around, like, you know what I mean? So they understand that we're really not there to cause problems. We're there to work with them.
They were following up on the docking and mooring applications as well, so they had an agenda that we just went along and identified things that we saw were needing to be addressed. And I also had a drone take some of the images along the shoreline.
Oh,
We haven't received that yet, but they are going to be providing it. And that care of most of our month. We have and then I wasn't involved, but there was a land and property rights tribunal hearing on August the 15th, and we haven't received a decision on that one yet for the gravel pit on the southwest of 333620.
and that decision should be in, Andrew, when?
It's required to be in within 15 days of the hearing.
So the 30th, the end of the month, we should.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Sorry to interject. The LPRT routinely doesn't close, so they may not be technically done with us as of yet. So
Oh, so it's 15 days after.
after they officially close the hearing.
Oh, okay. So good note to make. This is a brand new setup, this LPRT, so it replaces the MGA or MGB.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to get us figured that out. That's good.
And we've been busy with site inspections for new applications. We've been going out on our regular Tuesdays, mostly Rich and Robin's been, and I've been going out to a few as well. And we did have a meeting scheduled with the Buffalo Lake Municipal Development Plan Committee for September 9th, but I just received an email, we're possibly going to cancel that meeting if there isn't any agenda items that need to be addressed at this time. That summarizes our report for the month of August.
Can we follow up on that, the Intermunicipal Development Planning Committee? So who sits on that?
Larry is our, Larry and
Justin?
I'm the alternate on that.
Okay. So is there nothing going on with that? What?
well, we didn't have any agenda items. We may have things later in the fall. So we just thought we would
What is
wait.
it again?
It was originally scheduled for September the 9th, but
We had that meeting night before last or whatever it was. I can't remember. They had it all together, but there was some items that came from that. You might want to check with Yvette to do a follow-up with that, because there were some items that we needed to do some follow-up, and I think it concerns some of that.
yeah, and they have reached out to some of villages as well to see if there's some other items that they wanted added to the agenda. So it's just tentatively been canceled if there's not enough items for the agenda, because they have to travel from Camrose. So I want to wait till there's some substance to the agenda before they make that.
And maybe that's just an internal source for us to do that. Okay, any questions, concerns about the development officer's report? Seeing none,
I'll move the report be accepted as presented.
keep up the good work, get it steady. All those in favor? That's carried.
I believe we need to go back and.
What?
Sorry.
We're gonna go way back. My bad. I apologize. Thank you, Marlene, for finding that on. Anybody remember the meeting that we had last time? And the minutes thereof? Mr. Grover,
We'll move it.
any questions or concerns with it from anybody? Okay, all those in favor? That is carried. Thank you, Marlene, for looking after me. Somebody's got it. Okay. And now we will go on to 6-2, but I'll be honest, I am not sure I can pronounce that last name and do it justice. Who's taking this? Rich?
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is proposing to build a 96 square foot ancillary building in the front yard area of the subject property. A variance request to provide for the placement of the ancillary building in the front of the principal structure on the property, as well as an 84% variance to the front yard setback, 3.5 feet from the required 25 feet. Section 43.12 of the county's land use bylaw stipulates on a lot in a multi-lot subdivision, a detached ancillary building or any portion thereof shall not be placed within the front yard of a parcel. The applicant is requesting a variance to provide for the placement of the 720 square foot ancillary building. in the front yard lot 71, block 2, plan 05222242.
Can I?
Are you done?
I wasn't sure how many more, I wasn't reading along with you, I apologize. In your reading or in your report, it says that they are thinking of building it? Is it already built?
Building is already there.
And I see by the pictures that it's attached to sewer.
Yes.
And what's with the power box beside it?
That just, the power box is, that's the utilities, and generally the property line is located right behind that power box. So that just gives you an idea how close to the front yard set, the front boundary line it is.
Well, I'm a little, okay, so I guess I'm a little confused because the trailer on the right, so if you can go ahead, Mr.
Sorry, I was looking at a different picture. That just,
Right there, yeah, we'll move up a little bit or zoom. So I see that it's hooked up to sewer and then the power box there. Where's the property line, I guess?
sorry, that, I was confused on the picture.
Okay.
Property line, if you look at the other picture, Andrew, the one, yeah, that one. So the property line is generally, I don't know if you can see that, the water, if you zoom in, you can kind of see the water shut off valve there.
On the right.
That would be pretty handy to the property line. So that just gives you,
Is that water line coming into it or alongside of that property? How does that run?
that water line would be in the front yard, in front of that building.
So we are looking at it, where I'm looking at here, that's 18, is we're looking at, this is from the street side, looking at the front yard.
Right.
Okay. And so if we had to dig up that water line, would we working beside this building?
Yes. Yeah, so the water line would come straight up.
Okay, that's what I was questioning. What's that other pipe that's behind the water line?
That would be another curb stop probably for the.
No, the gray one, the big,
That much.
and then what's that box?
That's a utility box, it's probably underground power, I'm assuming.
From ATCO or from someone else in our right of way?
Echo, I would say so.
Have we sent this one to ATCO and they had no problem with it? I mean, if I was ATCO, I'd be not happy about this, but. Mr. Stevens?
I have a couple questions. What is the purpose of this building? Is this being used as a dwelling unit? Because we need to know that for our capacity.
They have it listed on their application as a shed. When the initial inspection was done, there was that's when that picture was taken. You can see the sewer line that is connected. After we received the application, we got in touch with these people and said, you have to have a permit for this, or apply for a permit, I should say. And when we go back to re-inspect, the line had been removed.
It looks to me like there's water coming there too, because there's a tap of water that comes off.
And there's a vent pipe on the roof that I would say is either for a heating system of some sort or possibly the vent pipe for the sewer. I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
And follow-up question, do we have any information whether this is compliant safety codes wise? All too often sheds are DIY sort of thing, which is fine when it's a garden shed. But as soon as you're running power, septic, everything else, that's kind of my question. Was there any safety code inspections? And my last question is this on skids? Is this on a pad, foundations? Because it kind of makes a difference how much work it is to move this if ATCO is upset about the lack of setback maintenance access.
It does appear to be on skids. It was hauled in. It wasn't constructed on site. It was brought in, and so I suspect that it is probably built on a skid.
So I'm looking here. Do they have options to put it somewhere else? I mean, may not have the same option of hooking it to power and water and sewer, but the shed.
So in the aerial photo there, you can see where the RV is configured. The lot does run back towards the lake. There's a lot of vegetation in there, but I mean, they could move a few trees and put it back there.
Well, Mr. Gender, what you think?
Two things that bother me about this, when they say it's proposed, it's already built. It's hooked up to all the amenities. It has been used as a living quarters.
We don't know that. You can't say that, Mr. Gender.
Okay, there's possibility of it being able to be used as that because the amenities are there. I also look at where the neighboring home, it's within the sight lines to build it. It's not fit to be in the front when you look at a home like that one there. I'm more in the part of where it should be not even allowed to be sitting there.
Has it been sent out to all the neighbors and asked if there's any questions or concerns?
So the notice of decision would be circulated after the meeting if it was approved. But I can say we have had a complaint from an adjacent landowner.
You can say we have. Okay. Mr. Stevens again.
Well, I'm prepared to make a motion. But I would like to kick this can down the road. I want to defer it.
There's a good government.
I would like to hear back from ATCO, the utilities. B, I would like to know if there was any safety inspections. I do not want to vote.
I think if I could, Mr. Stevens, I think what you would do is you would make that as a condition. You wouldn't ask the question because to be ambiguous, they could say yes. And then you would leave it at that, and then you'd have to go back, well, we would like to see it. So make that as one of the conditions that there is a safety certificate that is placed on it. And at that time, they make the decision whether or not they want to go down that road to have it done.
And the last thing that I think we need to know is what is the use of this before we can make an informed decision.
Not sure they've already stated that it's a shed, so I'm not sure we can ask. I mean, we can suspect what we suspect, but until we have proof, we don't, they've just said this is a shed. That's from a planning perspective, they have said, what is this? It is a shed.
I respectfully disagree from the sense that we are allowed a maximum development units. We have that hard cap in this area. In order for us to comply, we have a strict definition of what a dwelling unit is.
But they've made a point that this is not a dwelling, this is a shed. Because if it becomes a dwelling unit, they have to apply under it's a whole different program to apply under. So they have, by default, they have said it's not a development or a dwelling unit. And that's the craziness about government. We have to prove them wrong, unfortunately. I know where you're going with it, absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Gender.
So the definition of a dwelling unit would be what? Sleeping quarters,
What is their definition?
kitchen?
As soon as it's attached to plumbing and, well, I guess we know the answer to this.
I'm just going back to the safety code permit, or being that it's under less than 100 square feet, there would not be a need to have a safety code permit for that building. But because obviously if it's used for a dwelling, that would change the scenario. But an ancillary building less than 100 square feet does not require And the same with our land use bylaw, if the structure is less than 192 square feet, we do not require a development permit, provided it is placed in the back of the property and meets the setback distances. Otherwise, we have to bring it forward to the Municipal Planning Commission for the variance to put it in the front yard. Just to clarify, just a few. So,
Now you know the frustrations, Mr. Stephen.
sorry, do you want me to, I have the land use bylaw if you wanted the definition of a dwelling unit. It's a long definition, but I'll just summarize it by is not more than one household containing sleeping, cooking, and sanitary facilities intended as a residence and having an independent entrance, either directly from the outside or through a common area inside the building. So whether this could be considered a dwelling unit, it's less than the minimum floor area for a detached dwelling in that subdivision, so it wouldn't fall under the detached dwelling. There is a minimum floor area of 600 square feet, I believe.
And that's part of it. If it was a dwelling unit, we would force them to build it bigger. I mean, if you use your car as a pickup truck, you can do that, but it's not a pickup truck. I've seen many people try.
Mr. Chairman, if I might, I think one of the things to remember, the first test for the development authority, whether it's development officer or the MPC, is determine what use you're actually dealing with. Every single permit. If it quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it is for the development authority to say, you may be trying to say it's a hotel, but I think it's something else that's not allowed. It's always the first discretion, that interpretation of definitions and uses that comes with every development permit across the table. I think if you're concerned about it, you want to approve it on a certain basis and it's not for human habitation, that too, coming out the other end, the development authority can put conditions that says, yeah, you told us it's a garden shed. Well, here's the extra condition for you. There'll never ever be anyone occupying this overnight or accommodating it. Just a couple of the other points. The definition of whether or not it's a dwelling is not necessarily just utilities. You know, we can have a nice full set of washroom facilities in our prized workshop or garage. It goes to how is the space being used. And if it looks like it's being used for a dwelling unit, then that's a decision the development authority has to come to grips with and make a determination from there. So I think there are some things that if you need more information, certainly deferring the application would be the good route to go, so that information can be collected. Maybe the applicant can be present the next time. I will point out, however, that the applicant will have to grant an extension for the time for you to process a permit. Usually it's in their best interest to do so. Otherwise, the appeal process is much longer than simply waiting until September 28th MPC to see if they can answer some of the questions to allow the committee to move ahead with making a decision on this application.
So your motion to kick it down that thing, I will make that.
I'll go back to my motion that we defer this until we can get more information
And the information you want.
About the use of this building, as well as referring it to the utilities to make sure that they're comfortable with the setbacks.
Okay. And I'll just make a comment. I'm very much of the opinion that this shed should be moved to the back and it shouldn't be here. This doesn't fit with what we're trying to build at the lake. You have what looks to be a very upscale home on the one side. We have said that, we will give a little bit of lenience in doing some of the stuff if you're doing it in your backyard and nobody can see it. So when people say, well, you've set precedent, well, we have if it's hidden by trees and not necessarily front and center. As much as this is a quaint looking shed, I'm not sure barnyard tin on the side of this shed fits in with the lake appeal. I don't know. I would also, if this is go forward, I would like to see a condition that the siding be changed on this, because I don't think it meets the intended use of this. But that's just my opinion. I won't make that motion now. What's everybody's flavor? We have a motion to defer to get some more information, Mr. Gender.
I'm very much in favor of that. I'm just gonna want to know with the adjoining landowner. Would like to get some feedback from him also.
Can we do that? Make that a part of the,
Need help from one of the development officers on this. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say somewhere in the administrative section for the development officer, the ability to consult any party the development officer feels necessary is in the list.
okay. Are you okay with getting that?
I will accept that as a friendly amendment.
So now, administration, are you clear with what we're asking for? We would like to defer this. We would like to get some more information, check with ATCO, any other utilities that are tied to this. Try to ask the question, the intended use of this building. A shed is just what it is a shed, but is it intended to be whatever? And consult neighbors on either side, or is there a neighbor across the way too? Any attached any adjacent landowners, ask the question, okay? From the board standpoint, are you okay with that? Mr. Stevens, you're okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Administration, you understand? We're good? No questions? Then I will ask the question, is everybody in favor of sending this on? All in favor, carried, that's good. That was simple. Okay, we'll do quick introductions again. We have someone new in the gallery, so we'll start with Jacinta.
Jacinta Donovan, Director of Planning Services.
Probably have an executive.
Attorney General.
Okay.
Dave, what? Announcing yourself? For introductions.
Oh, Dave Grover, board member.
Justin Stevens?
Les Stillberg.
James Nyberg, Chair of MPC.
Rick Teal, Director of Parkland Community Planning Services.
Tricia, Director of Municipal Services.
Michelle Hoover, Legislative Assistant.
We'll go back to Rich.
Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
And yourself?
Joker, resident of Buffalo and community as well as the president, so.
Okay, there we go. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Where are we at next? 6.3. Yes.
Want to go to the application that Smoker is here for? or
Oh,
do you
okay,
want-
okay. I thought you were here and just to observe, but
No, I actually probably entered it the wrong time.
no, that's all good. That's all good. Okay,
It's
so that'll be
8.1.
8.1. Who's taking this, Jacinta? Okay,
Chairman. So the adjacent property owners abutting Lot 20, Block 2, Plan 05222242 within the Buffalo Sands subdivision are proposing to purchase equal portions of the adjoining 0.13 acre vacant lot for the purpose of creating a boundary adjustment of their existing properties. Lot 21, Block 2, Plan 05222242, located north of Lot 20, is developed with a detached dwelling. The current parcel size is 0.18 acres. The boundary adjustment to provide for the consolidation of the 2,831 square foot parcel of land will increase the parcel size to 0.244 acres. Lot 103, Block 2, Plan 1921090, located south of the Lot 20, is also developed with a detached dwelling. Current parcel size is 0.32 acres as a result of previous boundary adjustment in 2019. The consolidation of the 2,831 square foot portion of Lot 20 will increase the parcel size to 0.384 acres. Subject properties are within the Resort Residential Community Serviced Land Use District. The maximum lot area within the RRCS district is 10,765 square feet. The Resort Residential Community Service District stipulates a detached dwelling only may be developed on Lot 20. Administration is seeking input from the Municipal Planning Commission on the proposed purchase and consolidation of the 2,824 square foot portions of land to create parcel sizes larger than the 10,000 square foot stipulation in the county's land use bylaw. Ms. Hilker is here. She is the owner of lot 103, and her parcel size is currently 13,939 square feet. So we'd increase the size to 16,770 square feet. And then the adjacent parcel would also be, lot 20 would also exceed the maximum size of the parcels in that subdivision.
Actually, the next lot would be under by about 100 square feet. That's why I'm the only one here, because it's my property that needs the variance.
Variance, yeah.
Yeah.
So how did yours begin with 13,000 square feet? That was an anomaly somewhere along the lines.
It was. So I've been in communication with Joe Ham. He was back in 2018. So I was talking with him about this consolidation. We did it before we purchased the property just to make sure it was possible. And at that time, he thought we had to put in a subdivision application and said to go to a survey company to get that done. So we ended up, once we purchased the lot, we talked to the survey company who told us we didn't need that subdivision application. We would if we needed to tear the lots apart, but to join them together, we didn't need to put through that application. And so I was keeping Joe Penn in the loop the entire time and making sure that we were on side with the county every step of the way. And then back in 2019, I think essentially we took the file over and we completed the consolidation, but we didn't get a variance done at that time. I wasn't told we have to come into.
So you've already purchased lot 20?
No, that again, it's still, we've got a verbal agreement with the seller at this point, but we're waiting to find out about the variance before we commit to how we're gonna be purchasing, whether it's gonna be purchased jointly with the McKinnons who are in the adjacent lot.
Yeah.
Once we find out about the variation, that kind of gives us a direction on what our next steps are going to be.
And you said you already had the consolidation already done?
For the bigger lot. I thought that's what you were talking about.
Oh, so you've already consolidated 103 there?
Yeah, and that was because we do have future plans for putting a garage in, which wasn't possible within the lot size of our one lot. So we
Okay,
bought
so
the other
you
lot.
bought two lots there, consolidated those,
Yeah.
and that's what's giving you the 13,000.
That's what's giving us the 13. And now with the lot beside us, it's such a small lot
Okay.
that we thought if we went together with the adjacent lot owners, we could each just take a small portion of it and just join it into our existing lots, at which point, when I was going through the bylaws, I noticed the max footprint and, or max size, and called Jacinta and found out to come get the variance first. So we talked to the sellers and come up with a deal, but we were waiting to finalize everything until we.
No, that's, okay, now I'm up to speed.
Just that you're wondering my mind lot, so.
Yeah, now we've got that, yeah. And now, is there a water service to this lot 20? Is it a service lot, fully service lot? Does anybody know? It is.
So you take,
Which the middle,
To the property line.
oh, to the property line, yeah, there's nothing on it.
Right, so there's a T at the front, okay. Okay. And who, now, just so that we're clear on this, somebody would have already paid for that T, or is that?
municipal water and sewer, for the municipal water and sewer service on all the lots in the subdivision, so they're all fully serviced.
Right, but what I'm saying is typically if this lot 20 was to take it, they would pay for that at that point in time, which would, the hookup would be what?
No, this would have been done as part of the development.
Oh, okay, this subdivision, the developer already paid that, okay, so we're good. So this would actually cut down as well then one of our development units for out there as well, okay? Go ahead, Mr. Stevens.
On the topic of water, I think we went to a blanket connection fee rule,
Okay.
even if it's not in use. in this subdivision. So that is something we may need to consider. I mean, it's already there. This is something that we're maintaining. There is a cogent argument to be made that lots of people want 2 connections in case they do add a garage and add in the second service. So I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not sure if we should waive this connection fee on something.
Oh, absolutely not. If you connect, you gotta pay it.
And it's not a huge fee. I think it was $20 range or something.
No, it's like recently gone up to $44 a month. I think it's
Okay.
Basically.
just this month.
So, I mean, what do we do in that case going forward? We have a T there. Can you just take that out? Is it cost to take that out? Help us out here.
It can just sit.
It can just sit, so there would be no fee.
Yeah, it's just a curb stop there, right?
Okay, so there would be no fee. Nobody's paying but whoever owns 20 would still be paying the fee right now?
Yeah, they'd be paying, under the special tax levy, because that's an undeveloped lot, so there's no utility bill going to them, instead it's just
Oh, right.
annual tax bill, but it's, as you guys dealt with earlier this spring,
It was right.
it equates to the same thing, whether it was connected.
Go ahead, Mr. Gender.
The only trouble I can possibly see that, say like if we did have problems with it, it's in on the dime of the county.
Everything's on the dime. And sewer, unfortunately it is. Sewer is communal service.
Yeah.
And so there's a sewer connection to this as well.
There would be that.
And so I guess now going forward with either or, if we split this in 2, does one person get the sewer or one person get the water? I mean, I think these are complications that we are better to deal with now than later on. How do we as the administration look and see this to go forward?
Quite frankly, just leaving the services as they are is perfectly
And
reasonable.
first come, first served to hook up to it if like they said, like Mr. Stevens said in the case that they wanted to.
Yeah, I would suggest that it's probably never going to be in either party's best interest to utilize a second connection, because that would utilize a second flat rate. So they likely would just use their existing services.
Okay. That said, is there any other questions, concerns that anybody can see with this? This is going to be, we are creating a fairly large parcel, but it is within our realm to go ahead and do that.
How long has this lot 20 been on the market?
Since its creation.
Pretty much, yeah, been up for sale by owners since we purchased in here. But the gentleman passed away recently, and so we've been talking with his widow about this, so she hasn't put it on the market officially yet, but he's had it up for sale by owner for as long as we've been in development.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think there's a number of issues that are all good questions to ask about this. I will point out that you don't have a formal subdivision application in front of you to make a decision on this, and that you eventually will get a formal subdivision application. So any advice given today is probably fair to say it's in principle, as opposed to when we see the application and see what happens, like one sewer connections on one side of the line, one sewer connections on the other. There may have to be some tweaks, and you do have to reserve the right to make a decision at that point.
When the developer created this White Star Buffalo Sands, why was there a certain lot size? It's like you look around some other development areas and they're much larger than what this is. So why is this one limited to the 10,000?
I'm thinking the developer wanted to get as much out of the property that they possibly could. The developer makes those decisions, right? How they put the lot size together is theirs. We have a policy that says that they can't be over the 10,000, but that is, if he wanted to turn these cut them into smaller strips, he very much could have. It would have just been that design, how they put them together. And our policy is, the reason is for serviceability and for aesthetics. Okay, what's your thoughts? Is this something that we would entertain going forward? Now, a consolidation versus a subdivision would just be the application, but it's basically, it is a consolidation.
Actually, it's, first we're splitting 20 into two parts, and then we're consolidating first with 103. And then the other part, we're consolidating with lot 21.
And it would be all done in one.
It can be, so technically, it's good if the application comes in and it describes fully what's gonna happen. You've seen a few of those on some big acreages. And then at the end of the day, it's only one plan of survey that has to go into land titles to affect the creation of the two larger lots.
So are we just looking for, we're looking agreement in principle that we are willing to?
Would you be entertained?
Yeah. Max lot size?
That's exactly it.
Variance to the maximum lot size that would be needed.
That's what we're here to. Yep.
I'll give you that.
Okay. So we have a motion that in principle, we would agree to increasing the maximum lot size in this particular case. What is the variance on it? It'll be
1,000.
whatever it is, but it's
60%.
60%. It's a fairly big jag, but I don't think we have an issue with that. Anybody have any concerns or questions? So in principle, to give direction that we can go ahead with this. Okay. All those in favor? And opposed? We have one opposed, and that's Mr. Grover. So in principle, you can go ahead. The fine details to be worked out is how that actually works, is either get a hold of Jacinta and can kind of make the final details of how the mechanics of it will all work. So it sounds complicated, but we've done it a few times where it's a consolidation with the subdivision file, but it's tomato sometimes. That makes sense?
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just we don't want to put the offer in until we know it can be done. So there's no point in buying a lot and then two parties are stuck with something they can't do anything with, right?
Fair enough. Yep. Go ahead, Mr.
Just something to keep in mind as well. Lot sales can and often do have a condition on them as part of the conditions precedent to completing the sale that the subdivision can be affected before that sale is final. The county does that a lot with various things we're doing corrections on, so you may want to consider talking to your lawyers about having that as a condition so that if the subdivision, something comes back, it's not quite right, that the sale wouldn't go through.
Roll like just put the condition.
That-
Yeah, to protect yourself.
Yeah, no, I see where you're going with that, yeah.
We just always recommend it in case something happens or it gets appealed, even this board.
Yeah, we don't have the final say.
Yeah, no, we're just trying to make sure that you guys are good with us increasing our lot size.
And we're, in principle, we are, but if it went to a subdivision appeal board and we lost under planning, which can sometimes happen, one of your neighbors said, I don't want that big a lot there, and they don't like you or whatever. They go to the subdivision appeal board, they pay their money, and the board says, under planning, you can't do that. We made some mistake somewhere. We're not the final, is what I'm trying to say.
Okay, so we will need to go through that subdivision application process
Yes.
now.
And just to clarify, I don't think a subdivision can be appealed by an adjacent landowner, just the landowner.
That's correct. The applicant can appeal it.
Only the applicant, not an adjacent landowner, can appeal a subdivision.
Good on that side of it.
The different departments as well.
Auto owners that wants to purchase things.
Yeah, you're,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Unless you didn't like her decision, then you can take it. Okay, so are you clear with that?
I am.
Okay.
So I'll talk to you afterwards and go through the motion so then I can talk to the lawyers. Okay, no, that's all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. We gotta go back now to, did we do 6.3 now? Is that where?
We are at
6.3.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,560 square foot ancillary building in the agricultural land use district. Section 92(3) of the bylaw provides for an ancillary building with a floor area greater than 1,500 square feet as a residential oversized and a discretionary use in the agricultural district subject to section 4310B, which stipulates a maximum floor area of 3,000 square feet for an ancillary building as for residential purposes. 43.9 of the bylaw provides for a maximum height of 25 feet for an ancillary building within the agricultural land use district. The overall height of the proposed building is 16 feet. The proposed location of the building exceeds the minimum rear and side yard setback of the bylaw, which is an oversized residential storage building. Goes for the land and agricultural district.
So, my question is, I guess, why are we seeing this if it's in agricultural? What's the reasoning behind that?
The parcel size is 4.9 acres, I believe, or 4.5 acres.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's not for agricultural use, it's for residential storage. Machinery or,
We have this in the zoning in the agricultural district, right? No?
yes, but it's under the 10 acres, so it's not deemed approved. And then there's a maximum floor area for an ancillary building.
So should this be considered country residential?
Well, we don't rezone the lots when they're subdivided unless there's multiple lots. They remain in the agricultural district.
Okay.
But the size determines that it's not an agricultural use parcel, or it's hobby farm perhaps.
Okay, and typically I thought we moved them all to CRA, but okay.
When there's more than 3, generally we would move or rezone them to CRA.
Okay.
When it's just the first parcel out, they just remain in the agricultural district.
Okay, fair enough. Questions or concerns? I get Mr. Grover.
Move it.
Okay. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none, call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. 6.5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't believe we have one for North Star joining us today. So this application is going the reverse on a gravel pit that is now depleted. And if we can go to page 49, please, Andrew. So the pit we're talking about is often referred to as, if you scroll down, we'll take a look at the second drawing. Thank you. The Faleski pit, and you can see that in the air photo outlined in the orangish box. It's a small, around 8-acre area up in the very northeast corner of that particular quarter section. Access to it is cutting across the corner of the county pit, and then following the route that Andrew is tracing through North Star's other pit until you get over to the south end of Range Road 20-3, and then you go north to the Fen Road, first on gravel, and the last 900 meters or so on pavement. So just so everyone has their bearings in the area that we're talking about, it's not a very large pit. It's been exhausted, and they are applying for a development permit under the new use that was added to the land use bylaw as land reclamation. So that allows us to deal specifically with the reclamation plan, the activities that may occur, and issue a development permit for that activity. And then ideally the land is back to its pasture or cropland previous potential. It can take quite a few years though to go through the process to get the final certificates and a paperwork from Alberta Environment and Parks. So that's why you see this really being stretched over, say, of a 5-year period.
The reason we're laughing is because in our Ag Service Board, we just put a resolution through trying to speed up the
Speed.
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
Well, just so to that end, and I apologize, but if you have some samples or we're looking for some background information on where this has been a problem. So if you have some, speak to Andrew because he would love to have a little bit more.
I will give some thought to that. I'm not sure it'd be this particular example, but there's definitely we bump into Alberta Environment and Parks a lot on planning issues. So a little bit of a rabbit hole, but okay. We really don't have any concerns about the application, and Mr. Chair, maybe we'll just scroll through briefly the conditions and why we're recommending them. I get them to myself. So first, yeah, certainly it's to restrict your activity to the 3.0 hectare area that is shown on the Appendix A. So that is the area that was actually extracted for gravel. It also goes into a little bit of what's called the woody stockpile area to the south. So their game plan is to use the existing on-site materials in terms of clay to do the initial shaping. There's enough topsoil on site to be able to distribute across the entire area as well. They don't envision at this point importing material, so no heavy truck hauls to bring materials in to affect the plant. And then the woody stockpile debris may go to one of two ways. It may be distributed manually across the new pasture land to help create breaks for water runoff and hold the seed so it will take. Or they may decide to burn it off, in which case they'll come in for a permit to burn off the stockpile. So that's what you're seeing in that particular activity. The 5 years from the date of issuance is to give them enough time to affect their plan and get to the point of that AEP approval. And after that, if you, for some reason, it's still not reclaimed, we're asking, it'll be mandatory for the applicant to reapply to finish it up. If we scroll on, there are no conditions that we need satisfied before a development permit can be issued. So we're rolling right into conditions of a continuing nature, dealing with areas of hours of operation. There still will be heavy equipment. There'll probably be a little bit of dust. So we are still restricting those hours of operation to Monday to Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I would say it's a work day, but it's not a work day. And it should fit within their plan in terms of a 10-hour day to be able to quickly get in and finish up the project.
12-hour.
So they envision a 10. I'm not sure how many lunch breaks they get.
Oh, I see.
We're giving them 12. They said they wanted to do 10-hour days. So
Fair enough. Yeah.
The AEP paperwork is pretty much what you see in condition 5 and 6. Sorry. Offsite impacts. These are some of the general ones. Just, if the wind's blowing in the wrong direction while you're spreading the clay and it's too much dust, you may get a call to water it or hold off schedule. So that's why we do have that condition. You can scroll down. Number 9, we're suggesting, even though they don't plan to have a lot of imported material, the heavy equipment itself coming in may or may not warrant a road use agreement. And we're suggesting that be left to the discretion of the county staff to have a chat with the applicant before it rolls in or rolls off to make a determination. And if need be, a road use agreement would be required. We still have a construction site underway, so we are still looking at conditions related to safety and security, hence the conditions number 10 and 11. If we scroll down a little further, also the general, no burying any landfill items is in the process, hiding car bodies and other things while in the course of doing your reclamation activity. And there are a couple of items that they already flagged in the report, some contamination, some scrap metal that would be removed off-site and taken to the appropriate recycling or disposal facility. So the recommendation, Mr. Chair, is for approval subject to those 12 conditions.
Okay. Mr. Rover?
Good.
Okay.
It's nice to see somebody actually starting to reclaim their pits, and good luck with getting approval, but,
After it's done.
yeah.
So I'm just wondering if we shouldn't have another condition on this to make it very clear that we do not want to see materials moved off of this. I mean, if they come to a point where they maybe find some material and start hauling off of there, I would prefer that there's a condition that if there is to be a source of material in any significant quantity, that a new application would have to be made. And
I would accept that as a friendly amendment.
I'm just trying to figure out how we would make that as a condition.
I'm not sure if removal's allowed since this is strictly reclamation.
Right, but I want to make sure that it's very clear that this is not the situation. If it is a reclamation situation, which it is, then there should be no major removal of mining minerals. Does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah, I think I get the general idea. You have a question first, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman?
I have another condition that I wouldn't mind seeing on this, and that is because we're stretching it out over such a long time frame, i.e. 5 years, I would like to see it clearly stated ongoing weed control.
Yeah.
And erosion control over that 5 years.
Okay. I think that's it. So let's back this up a little bit. Can we scroll down just a little bit and look? So it'd be 13 or where did, yeah, we'll put it.
I'm going to suggest we look at condition number 1, where we have a bullet list of things that are kind of flowing
Okay,
from
yeah.
what the applicant has told us they're going to be doing.
Okay.
And we're probably talking about adding an E in it.
Okay. Okay, so E, that's good. That's a great place to put it. E would be continued water.
Weed control and then erosion control. So that could be if you disturb an entire
Yeah, good idea.
topsoil pile and you have,
Leave it for 2 years and let it blow all over your neighbor. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if D already covers the erosion control component.
Yeah, but E, so we'll put E as far as
Yeah.
that a continued weed control measures are enacted.
and one question, how far is it from here to the nearest residence?
Actually, a very, very long way. I think we'd be going all the way back out to 20-4.
Yeah, go to the Penn Road before you.
No, on our tour, if you remember when we went on the tour, you could see it at the very, very back. Go, Mr. Grover.
Yeah, well, I don't know, because it already said that they're gonna use the material that's there to reclaim it, and that's what they put in the thing, so hauling in and out shouldn't be there.
Right, so I think, look, they can haul some in material, yeah.
If they have.
But I want to make it very clear that you cannot haul material, mineral material.
That bit's done.
Yeah, if the pit's done, then there's no hauling out.
Fair enough.
So how would we word that? F condition being no mineral extraction or hauling allowed?
You would have to leave some latitude since they've already reported some contamination and scrap. You would have to leave some latitude for them to.
That's why I'm saying mineral, that's why I'm saying no mineral,
Okay.
or no how would you say no aggregate?
Aggregate, yeah, you can say no aggregate should be exported from the site.
Yeah, no aggregate material should be removed from this unless it's contaminated.
Give me a second.
Okay, I'm gonna let you work on that, Mr.
I think I'm ready to go.
Okay,
So E would be along the lines of continuous weed control shall be undertaken as needed.
yeah, good idea. Does that work for you, Mr. Stevens? Okay,
Large volumes of aggregate or topsoil shall be imported or exported from the site. From/to the site.
I would suggest we probably only need to export it, he may need to bring in topsoil.
yeah, he'll might need to bring in, so,
Bring in.
That's kind of why I went with a large volume, no large volume. If it's a couple truckloads, not necessarily a large volume. They do think that they have enough topsoil on site to do this. It's in the reclamation plan itself.
yeah, we're not worried about it coming in, we're just exporting it.
Exported from.
It is covered anything that would need a road use agreement if they're bringing anything in, I just don't want them to start a mining operation.
So then F would be no large volumes of aggregate or topsoil shall be exported from the site.
And don't use large volume, will not be exported unless strictly for contamination, yeah. Does that, say that again, excuse me?
Yeah, so you're saying no aggregates or topsoil shall be exported from the site unless for reclamation or unless for reclamation of contaminated materials.
Right, yeah, that's perfect, I think that works. Mr. Gender?
I think you covered it there, because my concern was with topsoil, exporting it because they're short somewhere else.
Yeah.
It would be allowed.
Okay. That sounds square?
Yeah, I mean, a period or comma to put somewhere later on when you see the final print.
Yeah, that's it. No, absolutely, we'll wordsmith. Is that Mr. Grover?
I'll accept that, that added stuff to my motion.
Okay.
Vote on it.
No questions concerned? Seeing none, I'll ask a question. All those in favor?
That's carried.
We did Adam, we did Hill, proposed purchase. Do we have any old business?
We haven't done 7.1.
I haven't done Adam yet.
Oh, okay, yeah, sorry, 51. Better do that again. Who's taking this?
Actually, should I delegate? Probably not fair, Mr. Chair. So Andrew, if you wouldn't mind pulling up 60, page 60. And Mr. Yeah, you probably have to zoom down a little bit. This is probably the most exciting exhibit in the package. So this application is north end of the county, just to the west of Donalda, north of 56. And it is a relatively remote, isolated area, a former farmstead that was in use maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, now abandoned. And the title of the land that we're dealing with is a little bit odd in this case, in that it lumps together 2 full quarter sections under a single title. Since the applicant would be able to go without the county's approval to grant 2 separate titles, we've chosen to focus on just the northwest quarter, which is where this parcel is being created. And effectively, the quarter section to the east is not going to be subject to the conditions or the consideration in the rest of the report. The proposal is to create a first parcel out using the boundaries that you see shown on the up on your screen. It's a little over a 10-acre block of land with very much an attempt to stay out of any cultivated field that you see very clearly in that air photo, but also leaving enough space to have an open discharge. We think there is an open discharge in there. When it was last used, well, it was, 5, 6, 7 years ago when it stopped being used as a house. Couldn't locate it on site. And the proposed parcel boundaries would allow the potential to upgrade or replace that open discharge by putting the discharge point very much in the middle where you see some of those paddocks and corrals. But the setback distance would just barely fit in the boundaries that you're seeing, both to the south, to the east, and to the west. So in discussion with the applicant, we also modified the boundaries to completely encompass the wetland that you see on the east side. So there's no fence line going through and separating that from the agricultural land as well. And in a part that was about getting the setback distance for the open discharge, also all within the same title. If we can scroll to the conditions, maybe I'll just walk through those, or actually, I guess we do have one stop first. Okay. There we go. Okay, so the applicant, the proposed parcel has an old approach. It's been blocked off by a log that's pretty overgrown, just a little bit slightly to the east of the existing dwelling. And the entire road allowance across the north is pretty overgrown with spruce trees and poplar and other species. Certainly brushing and clearing is going to be needed, but first the applicant will need to determine where they'd like to put a proposed access point. They could use the existing one that was used historically. That'll probably involve quite a more brushing, or they have the option of possibly locating something farther to the west. And there's enough space that they would still be able to stay far enough back from the intersection to meet the county setback distances. So that's kind of one of the first things that we have tried to identify, is that they do need to construct a new approach to meet county standards, but they do have some options of where to put it. Once they do, I think it's further down actually, I got another verbal condition to be added. The brushing requirements, which didn't get added to the conditions, would then apply. And so, Mr. Chair, I would like to add a condition verbally to what you. Number 7. That's very correct. And it would read along the lines of: once an approach location has been selected by the applicant and approved by the county, the applicant shall contact the county operations department to arrange the clearing of trees and grubbing of underbrush and stumps within the south side of Township Road 42-2 to achieve 150 meter site distances in each direction from the center line of the proposed access where the approach crosses the property line into the proposed parcel. We have road widening considerations. So you can see the 2 conditions, one along the north for 42-2, and to widen that up from 20 to 25, and one along the west side of this particular quarter section for 19-2. Get numbers right. So that the full quarter section, we are taking advantage of the opportunity to look at those road widening requirements. In terms of the rural development fee, staff have interpreted that to say that this should be treated in essence like a farmstead removal, which accounts for approximately 6.18 acres of the 10 acres that they're looking at. We've also looked at the intent of the Rural Development Fund to encourage people to stay off the good agricultural land. And we also were cognizant that we encourage them to expand to take in the marsh, the wetland area. So we're suggesting that the acreage for that be subtracted as well. So that leaves a little bit over a 1.3 acre amount, I believe, if we scroll down just a smidge there, Andrew, on to the next page. Lucky break. 1.34 acres, which would mean a contribution of around $1,340 to the Rural Contribution Fund, or Rural Development Fund, as the application of that particular policy. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to field any questions.
Any questions, concerns with this? Can I get a motion? Mr. McKay?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. See any questions, concerns? I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Anything pressing? That's it? That's all. Did we have anything in camera?
No, we do not. We just left it on the agenda.
There was an enforcement issue that went out in our meeting on Monday night that was brought up. Are you guys familiar with that? The sewer situation north of town?
Yeah,
Can we get an update on that? Maybe go into camera and get an
yeah,
update?
we can go into camera.
What's that?
We can go into camera on that.
Okay, I'd like to have someone take this into camera. Mr. Grover? All those in favor? It's carried. Everybody can stay. Okay. Do I got a motion? No?
I can make the motion that instruct the administration to notify the sewage haulers of current.
Operating currently in the county of Stubbs.
Yeah, the ones that are operating the rules, I guess, they were spreading and dumping.
Administration's clear on that? That letter? Okay. Any questions, concerns? All those in favor? Okay. I'm gonna give it to Mr. Gender. He was that although, next meeting is September the 28th. Okay, same time, same place. All in favor of Mr. Gender's motion to adjourn? That is carried.